Welcome to Aquarian Anarchy. And before we get started introducing our great guest here, you'll notice that we're a little different tonight. Tonight, Chad and Nico are both going to be a little late. They will be here, but they're going to be just a little bit late. And we had to mess with the schedule a bit and came on an hour earlier just so that Chad could make it at all. And because of that, I've got a good friend of mine named Jonesy, the Podfather, We've been friends for a while now. If you haven't checked out his podcast, I strongly suggest it. And he was a guest a few months ago. But check him out. He's good to go. And before we get into Magnus, who's below, we'll go ahead and do the plug stuff. Check us out on, give us some money on Patreon. Go ahead and give us some money, order some stuff, get all that stuff. We need money.
Buy my shit.
Right, buy everybody's shit. Everybody's got
donations.
Right, for sure. So, but seriously, though, if you like our content, please hit that bell. Share this. 2 shares to speed the spread of this show across the entire interwebs. And this week, we have a fantastic guest this week. If you don't know who Magnus Panvidya is, then where you been? Because this dude has been everywhere. I became aware of him probably about 6 months ago, maybe, largely due to his involvement with the Big Igloo, the Big Boys, and for sure. And he invited me onto his show about a month ago. It was a lot of fun. We talked about anarchy. One of the things that we talk about on this particular show is that we like to build bridges. We like to create allies. And we've done a lot of that with the Hotep Nation. We've done a lot of that with libertarian circles. And Magnus is another one of those people who is doing that, who is saying, put aside all our bullshit differences and start coming together against the real enemy, namely the state. So Magnus, I hope that was a good enough introduction, but I hope that you can build on that. Tell people in our audience, which is probably about half and half libertarian or anarchist and half Hotep. Go ahead and let them know what you're all about, brother.
Yeah, I'm unity or death to the end. I've run in all kinds of circles. My followers on Twitter go everywhere from like communists and democratic socialists to like ANCAPs to like Hotep people to like minarchist small state libertarians and everything in between, just because all I do is preach the unity message. I preach the fact that we currently live under an imperialist regime that will drone strike your children and throw bombs out of helicopters on your home and wake up in the morning bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. And that's a bigger problem than any 200-year in the future argument over theory or how society is supposed to be set up. The tree is falling upon the house. Okay, if you have an axe, help me cut it down. I don't care what you believe. Let's just get this shit done. And that's resonated with a lot of people. So it's great. And I love it. I'm happy to be here.
Cool.
I got a quick question. We say that we all need to be united when it comes to, you got the Hoteps, you got, anarchists, you have everybody that have all these different ideologies, right? But the thing about what we're all fighting for is that in America, it's not really real to us. We see bombs get dropped, but it's happening on CNN. We don't have tanks rolling through our neighborhoods. So how do you make it real to people in America? Because a lot of the tyranny that's happening is happening abroad, but it's nuanced tyranny. It's not actual physical tyranny in a way that it is, like, say, for instance, in the Middle East. So how do you make that real to everybody they have all these different ideologies? How do you make it real to everybody?
I think it's definitely tricky. Like, you can obviously wake some people up that haven't personally experienced a lot of this stuff, slowly but surely. But at the end of the day, like, a lot of our movements are either ex-military people that have seen that firsthand, or they're people that are victims of the drug war, victims of police brutality and everything like that. And I think you see this idea growing in this country because more and more people can't escape this. More and more people are getting this reality put right in front of their face, front and center, whether it be a riot going on outside their house or their businesses being closed down because of the lockdowns or whatever. Like it's not becoming this distant foreign thing to a lot of people. And it's unfortunate that it has to get to the point where it personally affects people for them to understand how bad it is. But you're definitely seeing it happen. But you are also in the opposite direction, seeing people embrace the boot even harder, you know? So it's kind of splitting down the middle. And that's kind of the whole idea of the boogaloo, of the social collapse of everything going to hell, because nobody knew who we were and we never appeared on the streets until everything had kind of already started going that direction, you know? So it's accepting that kind of this collapse, this like peaceful divorce maybe, or just everything going to hell is inevitable, but trying to, through the unity message, through like the coalition building and everything, maybe direct that in a more positive direction. And that's kind of how we're taking it, is going up to people. And, you know, I always use the example of after January 6th, like all of the like anti-fascist people and everything were getting really excited at the FBI running around and arresting all these Trump supporters and everything. But then I start sharing them articles of how during those same weeks, they were grabbing BLM activists and anti-fascist activists on thought crimes for edgy Facebook posts and shit. And that woke a lot of people up of like, oh, it's not left versus right at all. Like they want everybody. Like if you step out of the line, it's coming for you. So just stuff like that, kind of pointing out the moments where the state in its post-political, post-partisan bullshit reveals itself to not care about any of this, only care about itself and the power behind it.
Sure. And I think that lots of people, to your point, there are, you know, I have a good friend who's also been a guest. His name's Donnie Smith, and Donnie's an agorist, and he's talked multiple times about how this is, you know, all of this, we're pointed at negative stuff. We're pointed at shit falling apart. We're pointed at, you know, more tyranny in our life, and it's grown in the last year, and all this negative stuff, which to a degree, he's absolutely right. That shit's happening for sure. But one of the things I keep pointing out to him is, can you imagine being Lysander Spooner, or go farther back, being John Locke, or being one of these people who they're alone. There ain't another motherfucker anywhere who is pointed at, you know, liberty of any kind. We are numbered in the millions now, in the millions. And that's happened. I remember when I first got involved with Adam's campaign, there wasn't a lot of people, and it has at least doubled, if not tripled, the amount of people that I see that tend to agree with me since then. And that's just in 2 or 3 years. So I think we are moving towards that direction. And I think that it serves the state to keep us fighting each other instead of unifying. All of that being said, you're on the street more than I am. I get out there and I do my stuff. Are you seeing the more of negative or the more positive?
It's kind of a slight mix of both, but I do think it's leaning in the more positive direction. Of people are way more open to kind of talking to each other now. And we've seen this like going on even further back than like the unity message. One of the details of Kenosha that everybody forgets about was there was a video of the Kenosha Guard, which was like the Trump militia, and BLM activists meeting after the Rittenhouse thing happened and having a conversation. And the militia dude's like, hey, just letting you guys know, the cops approached us and said that they were going to push the protesters to us and asked us to deal with you. And we were like, whoa, what the hell? That's spooky. And the BLM people are like, what the hell? I didn't know that either. And like that happened after Rittenhouse, which was like one of the most divisive fucking things in this country. So like you're starting to see these people kind of like forming these wires of like, hey, something's going on here. And like maybe these differences are kind of bullshit. And you're seeing a lot of narratives break down too. Like tomorrow I'm going to have a panel on Black firearm ownership. And you've seen this thing where they've gone through like the media has gone through like layers of cope on this, to where they were like, first, like, well, Black people are buying guns because they're just ignorant. And then Black people are only buying guns because of Trump. Well, Trump's gone now, and Black people are still buying a fuck ton of guns. So it's like, what's really going on here? And it's because there's this awakening kind of in all cultures and communities of what's happening and what you kind of need to do for yourself. And they'll try to gaslight and say it's happening for different reasons. But I mean, I hang out with a giant group of communists that are anti-vaccine passports. And like, you go to like a libertarian, you tell them that, they're like, no way. It's like, no, they're waking up too. Like every one of these subcultures, communities, racial groups, like everyone's kind of having these moments of kind of getting with the program more and more. And it is more positive than negative, I think.
Good. So, my journey didn't start in a day, and I'm guessing yours didn't either. How did you kind of come to the ideas, both because so that everyone knows, you consider yourself a mutualist, and I'll let you explain what that is a little bit deeper than I could give an explanation to. But how did you come to those ideas, and how did those ideas mix with your firearms activism?
Yeah, so I've actually been in this probably longer than most people because I was raised in it. I was raised around like hippie, like anarchists and stuff like that. So that was my foundation. And I actually went way backwards to where when I was like in my late teens in college, I was a Marxist Leninist. Like I was a cringy communist. And then I kind of like rebounded back through people like Ron Paul, like that whole wing of everything, and kind of got back to anarchism. And that whole path has just been through years of horrific experiences with the state. I grew up in northern Michigan, where it's essentially a tourist trap that only cares about rich tourists and does not care about the local community at all. It's a borderline police state up there. We always joke around, Charlevoix County is where I'm from. And the joke everyone in Charlevoix County would always say is come on vacation, leave on probation. Because the cops are just insane up there for like anything. I was on 2 years of probation for like 0.2 grams of weed in a tiny baggie that was buried in my car. Wow. And they put me on probation for that. So like, I've always just kind of had negative experiences with the state, and I've always been very pro 2A, but I've kind of like, the way I've described it with like, this also ties in the whole creation of the Boogaloo movement. 2A activism had always been by kind of bootlicking like Republicans, like old fat guys that were ex-cops with a Confederate flag in their room that like complain about the government, but like don't ever do anything about it. And it's like, who kind of cares? But then in the last year, you've seen both in the libertarian community and even on the left and stuff like that. And then obviously like groups like Black Panthers and stuff like that really come back in like a strong, real way, and in a take no shit kind of way, Second Amendment activism that isn't all about respecting laws and being, if the cops say we can't open carry, then we got to respect the laws, guys, even though we're Second Amendment activists. Like that's going away to where the best example I can think of that is in Virginia. They passed an ordinance banning open carry in the Capitol. So a group of Boogaloo Boys, 3%ers, and Black Panthers had a joint march where they went down to the state capitol, open carried, and then even made replicas of the no open carry allowed signs and shot a bunch of holes in them and then replaced the signs downtown with them. It's like, that's Second Amendment activism. Like that's actually standing for your rights. So when I saw that coming back, I got a lot more involved in like the 2A side because I'm seeing a fight there for the first time in a long time.
Sure. And so Jonesy, did you want to, because you look like you might want to.
Well, yeah, I've always found it like kind of strange when it comes to like all of this ideology, right? Because I'm trying to, I'm really very curious about all of this, The one thing that I've always heard Adam Kokesh say was he said that patriotism is an artificial border love designed to create a distinct lack of love for those on the other side of the borders, right? And to me, I look at what we have now, and we have people who are trying to cling to the amendments in the Constitution, but it seems almost inherently unpatriotic. Like, do you guys still cling to patriotism when you're doing all of this? Like,
I guess it depends on how you would define patriotism. Like, I do love the concept of America, and I really do love Americans, but I'm not really married to the nation or the government at all. I view kind of the patriotism I have is for like the concept of America, the ideas behind it and what it stood for. And even before the Constitution. Like, I'm much more of an anti-federalist guy. I'm much more of like a George Mason certain person who was very opposed to the Constitution, and infamously, when it was being signed, I think the exact quote was, we've put ourselves on a dangerous path. This is going to lead to a democratic monarchy. And dang, was he right? Was he right? So like that's when I think of patriotism and the founding fathers and stuff like that, I think of some like super drunk South Carolinian guy in a swamp fighting redcoats. Like, that's America to me. It's not what it's become, or the Constitution, or any of those trappings. Yeah,
it's like they over romanticize what America is. I think it's a lot more simple, and I think that we've taken this and we've elevated it to a level where we can't even achieve with the ideals of what America was supposed to be.
Sure.
Because we're not being for real with ourselves. There are things that make us different. There are things that like, I hate all this colorless politics. Like, there are things that make me different. There are things that make you different. There are things that make you different. But all of the things that make us different really don't matter when it all comes down to it. But we got to confront those things first before we can have a discourse and be for real with each other.
Sure.
Absolutely.
And I want to second something that Magnus said too. I'm with the idea. Adam has another quote that's really good. It was one of our slogans in our campaign, and that is, we don't have to be united under one government to be united in American values. And I think that is absolutely the truth. We don't, I have values. There are values that were instilled upon me by the culture that has grown up in America. But I also want to point out that I think that a lot of the people that consider themselves patriots wouldn't say that Patrick Henry was any less of a patriot. And when it comes to those anti-federalists, he's my favorite. And if you want to know what his opinion of what was about to happen to the American government, go read what he had to say to the Virginia legislature against the ratification of the Constitution. He opposed it and basically had a crystal ball and laid out in front of the Virginia legislature everything we've seen come to pass, at least within the last 100 years, if not the last 200 years.
And it's funny the anti-federalists never get brought up, because all of the anti-federalists were explicitly and militantly anti-slavery, and it's funny because if you go into the history books, they'll have the one chapter, probably maybe not even that big, or like public school history books, where it's about the Articles of Confederation. And then they'll say, well, we couldn't do the Articles of Confederation because it could have led to a civil war. And then you flip the page, and the next page is the American Civil War. It's like and again, people are like, oh, the Articles of Confederation would have protected slavery. No, the Constitution did more than anything. And all, like I said, all the anti-federalists were militantly anti-slavery and viewed it as a black mark on humanity, and that it would ruin the new country of America forever. And it's hilarious how we're gaslit on that little detail of history. For they don't want to mention that the decentralization to allowing these states to be pretty much their own countries would have avoided all of the horrors of slavery and segregation and everything, when the history books tell you they would have caused it. And it's just okay.
Yeah, but they rewrite history constantly. And that's just, I mean, I did an article for Adam on that, his ideas of, dissolving the federal government and creating 50 independent states and all of that was not a new idea. And I made a very good case that Patrick Henry had the exact same ideas. And, again, the ideas of freedom are universal. And often, when you say patriot, like I posted an Emma Goldman quote last week, I think, where she attacks patriotism. And someone was like, oh, but, that's attacking, being proud of your country, and I love my country, and da-da-da-da-da. There's nothing wrong with loving your community. But nobody loves the murderers and thieves that run it, because that's who runs it.
Yeah, it's just like the concept of the nation state gets really surreal, because who do you think has more in common? The Texas farmer and right across the border, the Mexican farmer, who are like 50 miles from each other, same climate, same culture, eat the same kind of food or everything, or a Texas farmer and a New York businessman? Like who is culturally, more tied? Who has bigger bonds, more love, more understanding of community, that, in that situation? And I know, like, I think Emma Goldman actually has like an exact quote on that, but I don't remember what it is.
Yeah. I like I said, I posted it last week. I don't remember it by heart, but yeah.
You don't want to be a quote machine, but
that's right.
Right. I mean, you do have the JPEG awesome quotes with the agrarian anarchy on it that I steal all the time. So
good. Steal away. Because part of that is also part of what we're doing to bring people together, because a lot of times, like, I'll use George Washington and I'll throw an anarchy symbol behind him, and people are like, "He wasn't an anarchist."
Yeah, okay, but really mad,
right? And I'm like, but he's pointing us in this direction. What a lot of these people don't understand is, because they've been brainwashed to think that anarchy means chaos, they don't understand that it just means no rulers. And those thinkers, those patriots, if you will, were aimed at making the individual the center of society.
They don't realize that the Boston Tea Party was an act of anarchy.
Yeah.
They don't realize that. They over romanticize that. And then when you try to bring it to today, and for them to try to draw a parallel between that, no, it can't be that way. But no, It is that way. That's exactly what it is. I don't think people have a clear and concise understanding of what history really is. They don't understand. All history is just giving us a roadmap to what's going to happen now. Because they said it always repeats itself. And it's repeating itself not between our eyes, but right in front of our eyes. We're not really paying attention. And what's going to wind up happening, if we don't push back a little bit, we're going to be right in the same boat they were in. The founding fathers. We're going to be right in the same boat other civilizations were in.
Yeah, and people knew that at the time. Like, everyone thinks that westward expansion was just imperialism. For the first people that went west in caravans and everything like that, they were just trying to run away from the government. They came to the other side of the world to get away from government, and then a government formed. So they kept running west to just escape it as fast as they could. They kept going more and more west and getting killed by natives and bears and shit, just because they were desperate to get away from government. That was the type of people that founded this country. And it's so natural. And I always kind of throw it in the more bootlicking conservatives' face of, like, every person you idolize was like a drug smuggling, bootlegging criminal. Like, the founding fathers, like shot at cops and like smuggled weapons and like illegally farmed. Mm-hmm. The cowboys were all criminals. NASCAR was based off of bootlegging alcohol. Like, all of your heroes are criminals. And
damn.
And that's good.
That like landed on me, man.
That's good though.
Watch it just sound like Nito Brown and shit.
Right. Like it's like your great grandmothers were people that were hiding bullets in apple pies to sneak them past the Red Coast because it was contraband. Like that is your heritage. Your heritage is rebellion. So when I see, like, if you want to talk about being a patriot, almost the most patriotic thing an American can do is be anti-patriotic, honestly. Like, that is our culture. That is what we are built upon. Like, so
for sure. And I'll tell you what, there's a special on Netflix about the pirates that were going on during the revolutionary time I'm not going to bog it down, but if you want to see some interesting facts, go watch that Netflix special on the pirates, because I learned a bunch. Now, granted, it's Netflix and it's probably controlled somehow. But what I learned was things like the pirates had an interesting form of democracy on their ships. Yes, everybody followed the captain, but if everybody decided the captain was full of shit, they could kick his ass out. They could take over the ship. It was a democracy. If he could not maintain control of his ship, they'd kick him out, and they'd take his power away from him. And now, when they were all agreeing, he had tyrannical power. He could do anything he wanted. But if they decided what he was doing was wrong, then they could overthrow him then. And many of the things that the pirates were fighting against are similar things to what we fight against, and they just put bullets behind it more than we do.
Yeah, a lot of the original pirates, not really in the Caribbean era, but later on in the American era, were American revolutionaries that immediately got on boats and then just promoted revolution like everywhere. Like there was people traveling around voluntarily, independently all over the world, just stirring up shit. Not on behalf of the government, not on the behalf of a state or a flag or anything, but just because these people were that dedicated to the idea of liberty. And you saw that even like in the anti-slave trade piracy, where there was a lot of American sailors and ships that would go around and just burn slave ships and free all the slaves because they were like, fuck this. This is wrong. Like the government didn't even condone it. In fact, the government like threw a lot of those men in jail, but they didn't care. They were flying. They were going back, up and down the African coast, just burning slave ships because and that's anarchy. That's criminal, but it's good criminal. Like that's in horrible, awful laws and fighting against it.
I wonder if they were doing it in like that classic cartoonish pirate speak. Like, "Arr, this is bullshit."
Kiss my ass, Jonesy.
Hey,
what's up, my bro?
Cadillac, how you doing, man?
I'm sorry, Magnus.
Big anarchy symbols over me now. This is great. I love it.
Okay, do you like the anarchy? Because I can move Chad down there. I mean,
do I like the anarchy? Yeah, fuck you, ass.
Right?
We should make this a T-shirt.
Right? I'm already a T-shirt. Top Lobster made me into a T-shirt, and I was like, "Shit, this is weird."
Oh, all right.
I
haven't seen that.
Yeah. Yeah, you could share that.
I don't know how much time I have, gentlemen. This has been a shitty day, and I don't know if I'm supposed to go to dinner, probably in like a half an hour. But anyway, I did not want to disrespect Magnus by not being here.
No disrespect at all, my friend.
So,
Chad, since you're here for a limited time, what kind of questions you got for Magnus?
Well, I heard what y'all were talking about the the founders and everything, and that was really fun to listen to. I didn't get to really. I was driving back. It's like a 45-minute drive from where we were working today and the hotel, and I just like came in. Like I'm supposed to be taking a shower right now, and I was like, no.
Just bring the microphone in the shower. Just keep it above the chest.
Yeah. Oh shit!
We don't need to make this a triple X podcast.
It's grifting season. We gotta get those ratings up.
Right? You got the Anarchy OnlyFans or something now?
Here. Holy shit! Yeah, exactly. Right.
What's up?
All right, I'm gonna move Magnus up here real quick. There we go.
All right.
I'm not gonna lie to you boys. I'm probably going to have to leave around 7 o'clock because my brake rotor pad legit fell off my car. And I was wearing them down bad. So I'm praying that.
Oh my God, you just driving on the fucking
hey, look,
on the caliper.
When the money is calling, you're gonna have to suffer. So I was suffering for a while. So I most definitely have to, hopefully he shows up today.
Nico, aka Blade Runner.
I was a bicycle courier in Chicago, and for like a solid 2 weeks, I didn't have any brakes on my bike because I was too poor. So I was just hoping that motherfucker wouldn't kill me.
Yeah, he knows the life.
If the light turns red, you just fucking pray and go through it.
Did you ever have to lay it down, Magnus?
Oh, I got hit like 3 times when I lived in Chicago. I'm full of scars from my courier days. I got hit by a car going like 45 miles per hour, cracked my tailbone in 3 places, broke my shoulder. Like,
my God,
it was fucking
crazy.
What do you like that guy from Monty Python? Merely a flesh wound.
Oh yeah, no, dude. I always bring up this story real quick because it's really funny. But I was a Jimmy John's bicycle delivery driver for a second, and I got hit by a car. And my boss said I was totally knocked out. My boss said when he showed up with the ambulance, the only thing I kept saying was, "Are the sandwiches okay?"
That's dedication right there.
For real.
Look, my mom. One time, my little brother and I, we were playing football in our bedroom. Like it was the 3 of us. I have 2 younger brothers, and I would just I'm like 6 and 7 years older than the 2 of them. So I would like either do like all-time quarterback in the front yard and like throw to the 2 of them, and they'd play one-on-one against each other, or we would do these little things where we have like a goal line situation where it's like, all right, you have to get past this bedpost, and I'm just going to push you back. Well, I just like threw my brother back, and he fell and hit his hit the back of his head on the windowsill, gashed his head open. I'm carrying him down the hallway. I'm like I feel like I'm holding his brains in his head. Blood's pouring down my fingers onto the carpet and everything. My mom, here's him and here's me running. She turns the corner. She leaves, goes back around the corner, comes back to me with a rag, like, go clean the carpet. I was like, bro, his head is like, his brains are coming out of his head.
That's some real poor people shit right there. Like, we can't replace this carpet. You better go clean that shit up.
One time I picked up our sewing scissors, and I just like as a joke, I was like, I did like this and raised them at her. And she's like, "Don't! Those are my good scissors." So she's got her priorities all fucked up. Man.
That's how you know there's not a lot of money floating around, because you got to hear about how much shit costs all the time. You're like, God damn, right? You know that's 35 cents worth of light you're using right now.
That's right.
We're penny pinching this week. You better not break my new fucking scissors.
Right. Yeah. Well, so you asked me what questions I had for Magnus, and so before, I don't know if y'all already touched on this, but if not, what did you do to get suspended from Twitter?
I have no idea.
If I may ask.
I have a theory,
Really?
But I have no idea. My
You think
theory.
you maybe just got mass reported by some trolls or something?
No, not at all. What I think
Oh, no?
happened was the night before, it was like 3 a.m. I signed up for Patreon because everybody kept harassing me to do that. So the moment I hit finalize on my Patreon account, it has like link your social. So I linked my Twitter to it. And then I clicked finalize my Patreon and immediately got an email that's like, your Patreon has been suspended. I've never gone on that website one time. This is the first time I've ever visited that website. I'm already banned on it. So I'm like, that's weird. So I go to bed and then I wake up in the morning and my Twitter's gone. So I think like there was like some backdoor kind of collusion there or something.
Oh, wow.
Because
That's crazy.
They didn't give me a post that was like an offender. They didn't list what I did wrong. It was just your account's in violation of Twitter rules and has been permanently suspended. That's all the email said.
Wow.
I was like,
So,
all right, cool.
well, it seems like,
Interesting.
and I watch your channel pretty regularly, and so I've paid attention to the struggles that you've had, and I understand kind of where you're coming from. I have a family, and I have my own financial issues, but what it seems like to me is that you are onto something. They're good with you bitching. It's when you start raising money to bitch out on the street that they start to have problems. And so
the moment you start organizing, like that's
Right.
when they start trying to find every way to kill you. And that's not the only struggle I have. Like I do a lot of gig work and contractor work, and randomly for some reason over the last month and a half, it's all dried up. Everyone else I know is working. Everyone else I know is still getting offers, but not me. And like, that's weird. And then I started having it to where when I go to work, the building I work out of, I don't get any service at work. Everyone else does. Same phone plan, everything like that. They have 5 bars. I have 0. So, and my job requires me to use my phone. So I've had to like use Wi-Fi hotspots and shit like that to make money. And I don't want to get too conspiratorial, but it is really weird that like me getting banned off of everything, like my Patreon getting shut down, my work starts doing weird shit, my phone starts doing weird shit. It's like, this is awful convenient. You know?
Hey, he was blackballed. My man's was blackballed. If you see any vans out your crib, run. Just run.
Oh, the FBI has straight up visited me about 3 times now. Like they'll knock on my door. My friends have been visited by Secret Security. I mean, there's pretty much nobody in the Boogaloo movement at this point that hasn't had the FBI or the Secret Service or Department of Homeland Security knock on their door at this point.
Well, then on that note,
You're all on the watch now,
I'm not going to wait. I will blackball myself.
we joke around of like if you've made it 6 months in this movement and you're not dead in prison for a crime you didn't commit or like disappeared off the face of the earth, then you're a veteran. Because like there's a lot of us that like John Sylvensky, my good friend in Louisville, he's facing 5 years in federal prison over a Facebook post.
What?
Yep. On January 6th, he said the exact quote was, "If it kicks off in DC, it's going to kick off everywhere. So get your plates and rifles and be ready." Which that's a totally rational thing. Like if Washington DC fell that day and everything went to shit, yeah, grab your fucking rifles. That's a totally reasonable thing to say. They picked him up for federal cyber crimes, and he's sitting in jail facing 5 years in prison for that.
That's disgusting.
And it's like, holy shit. And they did the same thing to an anti-fascist activist named Daniel Baker in Florida, where he posted a flyer for an event that he requested people to show up arms, and they grabbed him, and he's facing 5 years in federal prison. There's a guy named Lauren Reed in Arizona who he painted ACAB on rocks and were selling them, and he got arrested. He's facing 5 years in federal prison. So it's like everybody, BLM activists, Boogaloo activists, Proud Boys, doesn't matter. The feds are just snatching people right now. It's crazy for thought crimes too, not beating up anybody, shooting anything, like conspiracy, none of that. For social media posts and art, people are going to prison right now.
Absolutely ridiculous.
And unfortunately, until we have had enough and say no to that, it's going to continue to get worse. You know, when I signed up for Adam's campaign, I made a joke, and that joke was that I named my NSA agent Felicia, so that when I hang up my phone, I can say bye, Felicia, and so you know. But the facts are, I told my family, don't say stupid shit that could get anyone in trouble near this thing.
Yeah. That's why I don't believe in OPSEC or people are like, use Signal, encrypt your phone, blah, blah. I don't trust any of that shit. Just don't say stupid things because they're looking for any reason. The other example I can bring up, and this is probably the worst example, is my good friend Brian Puffenberg. He used to be really big in the Michigan Boogaloo movement. This man's crimes was being in the same Facebook group chat as the Wolverine Watchmen, which were the plot to kidnap the governor. What's her name? Gretchen Whitmer. Yeah. So this was a Facebook group chat with like 200.
Wasn't that
people.
like a Fed setup though?
Yes.
Wasn't there that was an op?
Yeah, that was a giant op.
Like January was an op.
Yeah. But so all this guy did was he was in the same group chat with like 100 other people that had these guys in there. They raided his house. They took over $7,000 worth of laptops, cell phones, work computers, all of his guns and everything like that. And then a couple weeks later, they're like, oh, well, you didn't do anything wrong. You were just in a group chat, so you're not going to be charged with anything. And he was like, well, can I get all my shit back?
Right.
And they didn't give any of it back to him. It's been a year. $7,000 worth of like work computers for his company, his personal cell phone, all of his guns just in an evidence locker now. And he didn't even do anything. So it's like, holy fuck, dude.
See, I'd be worried about all the illicit porno that I had on my laptop.
No, that's just you've seen Black Mirror, right? Where that's the stuff that they use against you to like to blackmail you into like doing some shit that they want you to do. They're like, look, send this stuff to your mom if you.
There was
you're like, so you've been watching Brazilian Asses #5, huh?
This was a crazy story that got swept under the rug because of COVID, but in South Korea, there was like mass protests and riots because right before COVID hit, the government was forced to admit that it was putting child porn on anti-government activist computers to arrest them. And like there was calls for the president to resign. There was millions of people in the streets. Like people were pissed. And then COVID hit. So it's like, yeah, dude, like they'll hit you. They'll do dirty shit to get you. They're not afraid at all. They were literally remotely downloading child porn onto people's computers and then arresting them for it.
Well, what's interesting is that there's this. We have the email drop that came today, right? It's everybody's up in arms about it. And I put out a tweet earlier today where it was like, "Hey, something's off. This is too easy. This seems like a trap, or a distraction. It's some sort of sleight of hand or something like that. I'm not buying it. This is one of those like, hey, look at all this stuff." And it's they waited a year for all this stuff to be revealed. But what you were saying earlier about like the guy who was in the Facebook group and they're like, oh, well, you didn't do anything wrong. And he's like, well, can I have all my shit back? And they're like, no. Well, it's the same kind of thing with like I got my Twitter account suspended because I just uploaded the videos. Like I pulled them down and then I re-uploaded them, the videos of like the frontline workers when they were talking about like hydroxychloroquine and all this other stuff. And Twitter just like mass suspended everybody. Their algorithm picked that stuff up. They can't find child porn Even when people are like reporting, hey, I was 13 in that video, can you please take it down? Like, this is like, you're ruining my life. Can you please take this shit down? But they can take that down, even though a year later it all gets vindicated. And there's like emails from Fauci saying that this stuff is one of the possible treatments and everything. It's crazy how they
talk about a year to be proven right as a conspiracy theirist. Like,
man,
like Alex Jones is just knocking it out of the park this year.
But somewhere in a trailer park in Dubuque, Iowa, there's a guy who is wrong about everything that looks so much more intelligent, and that's what kind of pisses me off about all of
this. right. And I want to start selling tinfoil. Like I think there might be a real heavy market for that because I think it can make a comeback.
How did nobody make tinfoil masks?
That'd be the best,
bro.
I'm doing a tinfoil kufi. I gotta do that. That's the only. I'm not gonna try to appropriate the kente the actual color, but I will actually I'll do a tinfoil, so it's not.
Chad, listen, man, we'll allow you with the kente. We'll allow that, man.
Okay, all right.
It's been stamped.
It's like the Winter Soldier being in Wakanda.
Oh shit! But I'm from the South, though. I'm not much of a winter soldier. Like I'm
from the frigid, cold North. The igloo isn't just performative. It's June and it's like 50 degrees out right now. It's sad.
Really? Where are you?
I'm in Michigan.
Oh, in Michigan. Okay, what part?
I'm your neighbor, bud. I'm in Chicago, and this weather was acting wonky. But I'm grateful I'm not getting your weather because it was like 70-something degrees out today, so I get to, enjoy my day inside a building.
Right. Yeah, I was originally living in Detroit, but then after I got doxxed, people showed up to my house with guns. So I moved to a undisclosed location.
I won't ask anymore then.
Yeah, so right. I'm in southern Michigan though. I'm still like vaguely in the Detroit area, but I ran out to the fucking woods because when people show up to your house with guns, it's like
it's time for me to move.
Bye-bye.
Yep. So go ahead, Nico.
I'm ignorant to your platform, and I shouldn't be. I'm so sorry, but if you don't mind, what'd you get doxxed for? Unless you talked about this already, because I'm late.
No, I haven't talked. I don't think I've ever talked about this on the podcast, actually. So, at the very beginning of when I was getting involved with the Boogaloo movement, there was a local organization called Detroit Will Breathe. They were like a splinter faction of BLM. They didn't like the national organization or anything like that. They wanted it local based on like Detroit issues and stuff. So they were having a tribunal against DPD downtown. And they reached out to us because there'd been a big problem with a biker club that was full of like ex-cops kept showing up to the protests with like brass knuckles and baseball bats and shit and like threatening them. And they were like, hey, like we know like you guys in the Boogaloo movement are a little different. We don't really have like a Black Panther or like a John Brown gun club or anything like that. No lefty gun organization here. Can you come out and do security for us? And I'm like, sure. So we all went down and we did security for this event, and the bikers did show up, and that's when I had a gun pulled on me. And that was a giant shit show. And then like 2 days afterwards, I got doxxed in both directions. Like within a couple hours of each other, I got messages from like a legit neo-Nazi Discord, not like lefty, what they think, not like these straight up Sig Highland motherfuckers that had like my address, my license plate number, my mom's phone number and everything like that. That was all on there. And then at the same time on Twitter, an anti-fascist Twitter account shared a completely different dox of me with like my full legal name and like my high school and everything like that. So I was under attack by Nazi commies. Like I got it from both directions. And I was like, oh, that's spooky. And like my mom started getting like phone calls, and my ex-wife started getting phone calls, like threatening to kill her and shit like that. And I was like, well, this sucks, but like, whatever. Like this is internet. This isn't real life. I'll just get over it. And then dudes that I'm pretty sure were from that biker gang I can't prove it though because I didn't see him because it was like 2:00 at night. Showed up to my apartment in Detroit, and we're outside the window like screaming like we're gonna kill you, F word, we're gonna like blah blah blah, like you're not welcome here, don't ever show up again. And I was like, oh fuck. Started they were like throwing rocks at my window and shit.
You mean the other F word? I was like, you can say fuck on here, man. It's cool.
No, yeah.
I know which one you mean.
I mean, being like a bisexual man, I have no problem saying that word, but I don't know other rules on other people's podcasts.
Right.
But
No,
they were
all good. No.
Yeah, they were screaming like homophobic slurs and shit, and saying that they were gonna like find me.
We don't condone anybody saying anything wrong about any group.
Yeah. So that was like the moment where I had to like break my lease and like run the fuck out of Detroit. So that's how that all happened. So
well, it occurs to me that yes, they were two different groups that COINTEL was working for that doxed you.
Pretty much, exactly. Yeah.
No, it's funny. Like Marcus and I always talk about like there are all these different groups that we can form alliances with, and that's what you're doing, right? Like you're finding people on the left, on the right, in the middle, everywhere in between, transcending it, and like even going underground. And you're like, look, we can all agree on this. That the state is the enemy, and we're not going to shoot each other, And then you have other people who are building the same kind of alliances, but they're like, look, whatever we do, we have to fucking ruin these people's lives so that they can't collaborate together and fight against us. So it's not surprising that you got that from both sides at all.
I always use the analogy of it's a bunch of crabs in a barrel pushing each other down, trying to climb to the top. It's really sad when it's like, and like I said, people are waking up to it more and more, but there's still definitely on the left and including on the right. Like I get it from the right just as bad. They like to pretend that they're better than the left. They're not in a lot of ways of this tribalistic social club shit. And I've never understood the argument of like, so why can't I get together with like a bunch of communists and progressives and vote to end no-knock raids? Like what is the negative outcome of that? What's going to go wrong? How do we go from voting together to end no-knock raids to me facing the wall getting killed by communists? Like I do not see that connection, but people will argue that all the time. They'll be like, unity leads to death and firing squads and tyranny and blah. I'm like, how? Like it just seems antithetical to like humanity to me. Of like people my entire life have always believed weird, crazy, kooky stuff. I grew up with like Vietnam vets and all sorts of stuff. And like if there was a problem, then people got together and they solved the problem. They didn't care what you believed about shit,
Did they also check out the hook while DJ revolved it?
What was that?
I'm sorry. You said if there was a problem, we solved it, and I was just like,
you checked out the hook while the DJ. Listen, Chad told me that back in the day he was a heavy Vanilla Ice guy, heavy fan club. He had the parachute pants, everything. But that's just a little secret I want to drop on you guys.
Text out.
So no, but seriously, you know what I wanted to ask. Like, see, I think this ideal of trying to unite everybody is very, very altruistic because humanity is kind of driven by its biases. The human part of us all, the mental part of us, we want to do the right thing. We want to unite with people. We could say to each other, we should all get together. We all have a common cause. But people's biases personally is what keeps us all apart. And that's a hard thing to overcome, man, because there are cultural biases, religious biases, things about sexuality and things that shouldn't even matter to other people. When it comes to the greater good, that really rings true. And it's the most important thing to a lot of people. A lot of people don't want to actually admit that their biases is what keeps them from uniting with people that really are exactly the same as them. How do you overcome it?
I definitely just, take like pages from Fred Hampton. I take pages from Daryl Davis of just like, it really, you have to have a personality, a certain kind of personality to do the united stuff. And it really comes from just genuine love and respect for people and just listening. Spike Cohen did this whole show where he talked about where he met with a bunch of BLM activists in Ohio and actually got them like interested in signing up for the Libertarian Party because he just listened to him talk for like 10 minutes. And then after they were done talking and he genuinely listened to everything he had to say, he's like, well, hey, like, we agree on this and blah, blah, blah. And we want to fight this and we can work together on this. And you have to have that personality. You know, like if you can't be Daryl Davis, you know, black jazz musician sitting in the room with 100 Klans members and like smiling and like complimenting like you know their food and stuff like that, and coming at them with a genuine love. That's how you break this down. You replace fear, you replace hate and anger with love for your fellow man, and that's how I approach it. Of like, I genuinely like people. I like all kinds of people, and I don't really care what kooky shit they believe. I think they're great regardless, you know. So people can sense that and sense when it's genuine. The whole Unity Coalition kind of started when I, at a protest, just walked up to an anti-fascist activist and was like, "Yo, I like your shirt, man." And then we just talked for like an hour about like music and like nothing to do with politics. We just vibed, and now we're like best friends, you know. And like it just coming at it from that angle of like, you're a person, I'm a person, like let's just be people. That's kind of how you beat this slowly but surely. It's really anti-ideology and anti-politics. Like you got to throw that shit in the garbage and kind of come at it from like human, real world meat space kind of shit.
I'm learning a lot from you guys, man, because I didn't even know what the Boogaloo movement was. I don't really have a lot of background in all of this kind of stuff, man. I'm learning a lot from you guys, man. I appreciate.
We're very new. Like we're only like a year and a couple months, honestly, of a movement, and we've grown insanely big just for the fact that like I always use the comparison to Jordan Peterson of how he got famous when he had no right to get famous because all the man did was tell grown-ass men to clean their room. And that was like revolutionary because men aren't cleaning their rooms right now. Yeah. And like what I'm saying and what the Boogaloo's saying is like apparently revolutionary of like, hey, can we all just get along? And people are like, whoa. It seems pretty simple to me, but I guess it's like a revolutionary idea in 2021.
Rodney King said that shit in like the 90s, and people still make fun of him for it.
I was about to say Rodney King is the original Boogaloo guy, man. I guess.
Yeah, right? Yeah. Like and people like Fred Hampton, people like if you look at it, not even like late era Malcolm X, all the people that suddenly were like, hey, you know what? All this division's stupid, and we should work together. Those are the people the government kills. They don't kill the neo-Nazi or the Klans member or like, you know, the black church leader or anything like that. They kill the people that start talking to each other because that's what they're scared of. They don't want anybody talking to each other.
No, those other the neo-Nazis and like all that stuff, all of those really, really divisive types of groups of people. Those are like the tools that they use. They pull those things out of the tool bag whenever they need them to go. I read a story. I think it's from like 2017, but there's actually this guy. Shit, for all I know, you might have posted it. There's this guy who like he was Muslim, and this FBI agent had basically been like not catfishing him.
I did post.
That was you who posted. Yeah,
they were totally so yeah. I can explain this real quick.
Yeah, go ahead. Tell the story. You'll probably tell it better than I will.
Because this happened in my backyard. This was actually only like 50 miles away from me. Of the FBI approached this super depressed Muslim dude who had like bipolar disorder and shit like that. They matched with him on Tinder, like a super hot FBI agent, and we're sitting and started getting in like an online relationship with him and like sending him like nudes that were probably fake and like flirting with him and everything. And then the whole time pushing this dude to go commit an act of jihad. So literally this FBI agent like seduced and romanced this mentally impaired man and was trying to convince him to commit terror attacks and to
go do like a mass shooting, right? Yeah, or something like that, or a suicide bombing or something.
It was trying to convince him to go buy guns and like go shoot up a shit. And they didn't arrest him until he
said no.
Yeah, he said no. He said he wouldn't do it, and then they arrested him. Yeah. It's like, what the fuck?
Right.
Well, and imagine how many times that's played off. Imagine how many like people over this country that like, you know, whether it be places like Vegas or the Nashville bomber, it makes you start questioning like, is there really people like this, or is everybody just a fucking Fed plant? You know, like,
right. Yeah, because I think you even said something about that. You or somebody commented on that whole ordeal that like, you know, if he had not said no, we would have just found out that there was some mass shooting and they would have blamed it all on, you know, an Islamic extremist and all this stuff. And we'd have never known anything about the FBI having anything to do with it if it had been successful. But because it failed, we find out that the guy got thrown in jail for disobeying the catfishing.
And there's almost, I mean, there probably is a couple, but there's very few mass shooters, terrorists, and stuff like that in America that the FBI have not admitted that they had contact with, if not directly spoken to them months before they did it. So it's like that's sus. That's really fucking sus.
Like I tell my brothers this all the time. I'm like, before you go believing anything that's told to you, most definitely read the facts. So my siblings asked me, do I believe in the health system? And I'm like, absolutely not. I stopped believing in America after I found out who runs our NASA programs, because they lie to you about something as complex but as simple as space. What makes you think that they won't lie to you about, something that's such as your body and your health? So it's something that I've always attributed to, is just making sure. I tell my siblings, go peep out some declassified CIA documents and see how much you want to trust this place you live in.
Yeah, I shared this meme of like it's like this dog can't hurt you by biting, but he can hurt you in other ways, and then the dog says something, and the dog in that meme says that the federal government has admitted to lying to you multiple times in documented history over the last 100 years, and you still trust them. Because they'll admit to it 50 years later. They'll be like, oh, yeah, the Gulf of Tonkin shit. Yeah, we made that up. Oh, like the Bay of Pigs. Yeah, we made that shit up. And people still trust these motherfuckers. And this isn't even like old history. Some of these people are still alive. Some of these people are still in the government. And they just admitted, like, yeah, we just totally bullshitted with you. Whoops, awkward. It's for your best interest.
Much better meme. That's a much better meme than the hard pills to swallow bottle bullshit meme, because that so often I've seen those, and it's like there's like 17 paragraphs on that bottle, and it's like, bro, like brevity is the soul of wit. For a meme to hit, it's you got to cut it down, pare your shit down into just like a sentence or two.
That's why I say, like,
yes, Jonesy, I know you're gonna make fun of me talking too much, but.
So no, I'm not, dude. Why are you so subconscious, bro? I'm listening to you.
We were just on there last night. Last night when I was trying to get in on the John Clear thing, you were talking shit before I even got on.
Look, it's been real.
Hey, no, but for real though, I just got the notification that it is time for me to bounce for dinner. So
all right,
thanks for showing up. It has been a pleasure. Yeah, it has been a pleasure, and I hopefully we can get you back on again soon, where I'll be able to chop it up with you a little bit more, because this has been great, and I'm learning. I'm still learning as this stuff goes on. I'm a pretty deep anarchist, but like the more I talk to folks like you, the more I see, like, because you're doing shit on the ground that not very many people are willing to actually do, and I appreciate that, and it's inspiring, honestly. So I hope you have more folks to help you out, and not so and no more zero ever again people fucking knocking on your windows or whatever the fuck. That was bullshit.
Oh, it's a glorified suicide cult. I welcome it. That's just part of the deal.
Well, I don't. Throw that out there for all of the people.
Yeah, I'm with you too.
Okay, they're outside waiting for me, so I gotta bounce. Peace.
All right, love
y'all. Yeah, I'll watch it back later.
Cool.
Take care.
Magnus, couple things. First of all, I want to, and everybody cool where they're at?
I'm here.
Okay. Couple things. The first thing I wanted to say is when you were talking about earlier about the way to get to people is to throw out all the bullshit and just get to love and accept who people are. That is, you are completely right. It brought to mind the image of that hippie putting the flower in the end of the gun, and that's beautiful, and it's a beautiful sentiment. But what I tried to tell people is you have to understand this is the hard way. This is not easy, because that gun fired. It killed that hippie. She is dead. And so this is a dangerous life. Opposing tyranny is not easy. I have a family. I have things that I can't do because I have a family. There are things that I'm restricted because I have an 11-year-old little girl. I want to make sure she's safe. But at the same time, I have to balance that. And what I in my life choose to do to balance that is to do what I can do as most and do it as best as I can. That's why a lot of what I do is digital. A lot of it is charity work, those kinds of things. But I just wanted to point that out. And the second thing I wanted to do is I want to kind of take us in a little bit of a different direction. One of the things that we talk about on Aquarian Anarchy that a lot of other people don't talk about is the spiritual level of this. They were talking about Hotep stuff earlier, and I thought, I'm not going to get Kufi, but I'm going to get me like a big Nemesis. And I've got a picture of Aleister Crowley in his in a Nemesis, and in my picture that I've got in my files, it's a picture of Crowley, and it says Hotep Crowley. And one of these days, no. It's fucking hilarious. But I kind of have an idea of where you're at with your heart, because to me, there has to be a spiritual level to all of this stuff. To me, and it may be that people's spirituality is like, for instance, with Adam, his spirituality really is freedom. That's what his spirituality is. But in our conversation when we came on with you, you mentioned that you have a pretty deep spirituality. I'd like you to tell us where you're at with God and those kinds of ideas.
Yeah. So, like I said, I was raised by a bunch of like heathens. I am a practicing pagan, but I'm not the cringy.
He's one of mine.
Yeah. I'm not the cringy, like anti-theist, like Christianity is lame, and he's none of that. I embrace all forms of spirituality, just like I'm an anarchist without adjectives. I am a spiritualist without adjectives. I don't care what kind of spirituality you practice, as long as it's genuine and it comes from love. And that's kind of like the culture that I was raised up on the commune was love or take all, like definitely that real close to the earth pagan kind of thing, because a lot of paganism, where I draw a lot of this from, is very earthly. It's very tangible. It's very what you can touch. And that obviously like influences my like politics and stuff like that, because I can't touch communism, but I can touch a person who's a communist, like that person's real. What they went through is real. Their ideas are abstract and weird. So like, that's not is important to me. Like God to me is not just a concept. God is the trees. God is the ground. God is everything around you. God is people. So like, that's kind of like how it all, I'm a infinite broken record, because everything I believe funnels into the same shit, but yeah.
Same.
So it's like a belief bucket with a funnel of everything.
Yep.
I was going to say, once you start thinking like that and you really breaking down, since you said it's a broken record player, it's a cycle. Everything's a cycle. When you break things down into cycles, things that are cycles end up as just one, because it's a big ass circle, but a circle is zero, but a circle has a point and it forever has a point. So it's never ending. Everything's just continuous. It's in a cycle and a spiral, but the spiral goes up and down, and who the fuck knows where else it goes.
Yeah. And most importantly, it's never static. Like that's a big thing issue I have with politics and religion, and even like culture to a degree, is a lot of people like to pretend that things don't evolve and don't adapt and change and grow at all. And there's even so-called progressives and stuff like that are all about like forward, and all the past ideas are bullshit. That like they're married to ideas too. Like I always, I'm a big fan of Max Stirner, which was a egoist anarchist, and his whole thing is that like if your ideas, your belief, your religion, like anything that makes you, if you're married to it and you're ruled by it instead of you ruling over it, then it's not serving you anymore. Right. And I feel like a lot of people don't personalize their politics, personalize their religion. Like God is something outside of them. Politics is something outside of them. And they live their life based upon it instead of having it based upon their lives. Yeah. And that's, obviously like the usual, like annoying Catholic Church people that are like a cult, or like, any religion where people are so married to this and not personalizing it. It's toxic for humanity. And
so they're letting it define who they are, as opposed to it being kind of like I happen to be this. I'm this kind of person, but I happen to be, you know what I mean? And I understand it. There are a lot of people that are letting very, very trivial things, and these things aren't trivial to them. But I believe that when you go throughout your everyday life, as you go to work, you're out here trying to navigate the world that you can see and touch. Those things really have little bearing on your day-to-day life. If you have a job, your religion shouldn't have anything to really do with you doing your job. Or eating or feeding your children, and you know what I mean. It's kind of like the lettuce on the sandwich, so to speak. Am I correct? And I believe that, like you said, man, people are allowing this stuff to define them in a way where they're not being decent to others because of their belief structure. It's good to have faith, but a belief structure is what starts wars. A belief structure which starts the things that we're having an issue with right now in this country,
Right.
For sure.
It causes just like the weirdest shit to happen, because we had a event in Georgia that had a really surreal kind of interaction happen, to where 3 percenters showed up to a community like outreach and like homeless outreach for the homeless that was run by anti-fascists, and they showed up and started fucking with them just because they're anti-fascists. And there was a Boogaloo boy there, and he talked to him, and he's like, they're just helping homeless people, dude. Like, what? Like, this isn't a protest. Like they're just help. Why are you here? Like, this red team versus blue team shit is so surreal to me. And then you see it on the other side of people like, well, I won't help that charity because it's run by the church. I'm like, well, what the fuck does that have to do with helping people? Like, that don't matter. Like, I don't care who you are. I don't care if it's like some biker gang or whatever that's passing out like toys to children. Like,
get the money to the people.
Right. And I experienced that most recently because one of my good friends is a guy named Rome, and he's a Detroit-based communist. And people in the Libertarian Party are like, how can you be friends with a communist? And I'm like, because we go out and feed homeless people. Like, that don't have nothing to do with liberty or Christianity or anarchy or anything. That's just helping people. Like, what the fuck? I can't talk to this dude because he has a spooky symbol on his t-shirt.
Right.
Like, I don't care. I don't give a fuck.
A lot of people's egos and prides are so massive. Like, oh, you're associated with me, and you can't be associated with him if you're associated with me. My connection with this person has nothing to do with you. People forget about their own individual space and bubbles and think that their reach is beyond their physical body. And it's kind of sad how people also who do that have no perception of how to get over yourself. And they're so stuck with the ego, and when the ego decides to be the perseverance of the person and it just takes over, that's where we have a society where we're based in now. I'm talking to my coworker. Go ahead.
No, finish what you're saying.
I was talking to my coworker today about how materialism is ultimately swallowing the black people, black community, because I can't say swallow, but the majority of the black community lets the brand wear them. People let the brand wear them instead of understanding that it's just clothes. We were talking about how shoes, he said he was sneakerhead. And I was like, yeah, I was going there at one point. Then I found out, like, they're just shoes. Like, they protect your feet. I understand keeping pairs of shoes clean. That's an understanding principle. But when you go far beyond and unnecessarily beyond for what the purpose of the shoe is, then you therefore let the ego or the persona of therefore or their said item or person take hold. And it's just ignorant.
Yeah, when I lived in Chicago, there was a stabbing over a pair of Jordans at Palomino Park, and
I do remember that. I remember that.
They're fucking shoes, bro. That's your family. That's your fellow man. You stabbed him over a pair of fucking shoes.
Blind.
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck?
Right. And real spirituality is against all that shit. I have a spiritual teacher. His name's Lou Martinet, and he's from New Orleans. He's a voodoo spiritual teacher. And when they asked Lou, what does voodoo mean to you? What is your definition of what that means? And he said, gratitude. Voodoo means that I am thankful for all of the people that have brought me, all of the spirits that have brought me here. I am thankful for my mother, for my father, for the ground which I walk on, because all of my ancestors are the ground that I walk on. And I think that echoes many of the things that Jesus said. It echoes many of the things that Muhammad said. It echoes many of the things that Buddha said. Those are the kinds of real spiritual things that give us strength. I'm with Jonesy a bit. I think that we need to set a lot of that bullshit aside when it doesn't matter, because you're right. You shouldn't be walking around going, this is the most important thing. Okay, you titled yourself whatever if you call yourself a Christian or you call yourself a Buddhist or whatever it is, your relationship, no matter how good you are, is never going to be quite as good as Buddha or Jesus is with God. Sorry, I hate to let you know. So how about you learn from that great teacher, learn, and then try to be the best you can be.
Yeah, and that's like to your point about ego too. Like, it's even better than that, because a lot of this is actually anti-ego, because it has nothing to do with you or what you want or what you think is best. You're allowing your ego to be affected by people you might not even know, people you may never fucking meet, people on the internet. These random faceless icons. Like, you're letting an anime profile picture attack your ego because you're in a picture. Like, right. that doesn't serve you. That doesn't help you. What good does it do in your life? But all these people care about this shit, and it's weird, and it's very like anti-religious and very anti-spiritual. And you kind of see this stuff of I think I brought this up the last time we talked, Marcus, but the original Christian anarchists, the Cathards, they were all like explicitly anti-material. They dressed as Jesus did. They like wandered around. They didn't believe in like property or personal ownership, just like total vagabonds and everything like that. And they were killed by the church for that, because the church at that time had become anti-spiritualistic, and they were spiritualistic, and they needed to shut that down. And that kind of goes to the point of like this spirituality and like militant individualism is always a threat to these kind of power structures. And that's what scares the shit out of them. They aren't like when you look at a racist, like a racist isn't afraid of BET or the NCAA or any like all black organization. They're terrified of individuals that just do their own thing. They get happy. They get happy when people self-segregate. They get happy when people join teams and fight against each other and everything. But they get real spooked the moment they see that people like start working together and talking and transcending this stupid bullshit that doesn't matter, and embracing themselves and what makes them and what makes them real. That's what they get real scared of.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's all about dealing with people on an individual level. Like when I meet anybody, I talk to anybody, I start off at zero with them, no matter what they are, no matter what they look like. That's what I try to do with everyone. And I try to give everybody a fair shot. And I think if we all did that, the world would be a lot better place, man. Sure. It's, because what I've come to, because I've been around a lot of people, seen a lot of people, talked to a lot of people. And I just realized that all of the things that we really believe about each other is all bullshit. When you get down to it, man, we all just want to take care of our families. We all just want to be happy on some subsistent level. Yep. And we all just want to have the freedom to express ourselves, as long as we're not hurting other people. And I don't really see why we don't have the latitude to do that right now. It's becoming something different, I think. Yeah. All of the social media, not to ramble on, but all of this social media has really made our world a lot smaller and a lot more restricted.
Sure. And the answer really, Jonesy, to why people are doing those kinds of things is because it is serving the people that, if we started only living with love and judging people like you suggested, then our eyes would turn from each other and focus really directly at the people murdering and killing folks all over the globe, including in this country, and stealing our money and not offering some kind of payback for what they steal. That's why it is not in the government's or frankly major corporations' best interest for us to stop attacking each other. If we stop attacking each other, we'll find the real enemies and we'll go after them, and we'll go after them with vigor. And they know that. And so they got to get us fighting each other
That's
Yeah,
not
and
even
I go after, because obviously there's a lot of pushback against the unity movement from the right, because I work with BLM a lot, and I always kind of attack them on this front of like, okay, you think BLM is a communist organization that rioted and burnt down a bunch of cities and killed innocent people. It's like, okay, yeah, that all happened, but this person standing next to me, did they hurt anybody? Did they burn anything? Did they attack anybody? Have they ever hurt you personally? No? Then why are you treating them as a collective? We're supposed to be individualists. If you're a libertarian, if you're anarchist, if you're Hotep, solutionitarian, all these ideas are based off of individualism. So how are you going to slip into collectivism and start blaming people for crimes they never personally committed? And that can apply to everything, whether it be like the woke stuff, treating white people for things they've never done, or racism, or like Republican, Democrat, anything. It applies to everything. Like we paint each other with crimes that we never committed, that other people committed, just because they call themselves the same thing or look the same way. It doesn't, like, any of all this shit's bullshit. Like I'm not going to go up to like a Christian or something like that and being like, hey, you know, in my hometown, the local pastor, called me homophobic slurs. That's your fault. Like, you don't know him. You never spoke to him. You didn't even know he existed. How is that your fault or problem? And like, trying to convince people that are supposed individualists to embrace individualism is like the most frustrating shit in the world. You know?
You know why? Because we have this inherent need to feel that we're better than our fellow man.
True.
We have an inherent need to say, you know what? Listen, I'm a part of the woke movement, and we know what's best for everybody. And you're wrong, and I'm right. It is human ego at its finest. And that's pretty much harkening back to my initial line of questioning, because, you know, I'm on here because I like to learn, you know what I mean? I'm not an anarchist, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I don't know the nuance. I don't know. I don't know the nuance behind all of this stuff. You know what I'm saying? I just don't, you know, I don't like, you know, but it's very interesting to me. And I just don't understand how we get out of our own way as human beings. And I'm not talking about the altruistic good part of humanity. I'm talking about the ego, the envy, the greed, the unloyalty. Like, how do you bring everyone together when, like you said, we're all individuals? So you have a lot of good individuals with the best of intentions, but you also have that handful that'll fuck everything up for everybody. Because, like my father used to say, the pathway to hell was paved with good intentions, right?
Yes.
Yeah, the difference between anarchy and the state is that in anarchy, you will sometimes have people rise to the top who are those bad people you were talking about. In the state, you are assured they will rise to the top.
Yeah, I think the exact quote is anarchy is not a problem, not a promise that people will not lie, rape, and steal, but government is a promise that someone will. And it's like, yeah, because like I mean, we can keep it on the spirituality. If you go all the way back to the famous quote, I think it was by Aquinas, I might get that wrong, of absolute power corrupts absolutely. Like that is 100% true. And that was written by a man who was in the church writing about the church at the time where the church could burn you for writing shit like that. And and he put that down on paper. And it's 100% true of more than anything. I think like the idea of these large, expansive kind of countries, because I'll settle for small countries, but just like the idea that you could have millions of people all under one power structure, and we all have to be real careful and delicate and respect each other. That's hard. But like a community where you can reach out and you can touch everyone you can know, like the small town life, the village life and stuff like that. The asshole struggles in those situations. Truth. You know, when everybody knows you, like if you're in a population 300 town and you're like you're the guy who hits women at bars, it's real hard to be popular in a 300. But you go to Chicago or something like that, those people can disappear into the fucking mist, and you know.
You imagine that everywhere you go, here comes this motherfucker.
Right.
Yeah. Like, yeah, what do you want, Jack? Go get your own bread.
Like I had that because I had that in my small town. I mean, it's not the best example of this, but it goes to the point of my family is 50-50. My mom's side was born and raised in this town for like 3 generations, like Native American and stuff like that. They were the town drunks. And then my dad's side of the family was the interracial like family that came from Detroit and moved into the small town and started causing all sorts of trouble. So I would go into high school and they'd be like, "What's your last name?" And I'd tell them my last name and they would give me that look like, "Oh, you're one of them," because like, but that goes to show like my family caused a whole bunch of hell in this small community and they didn't forget about it. But like politicians and stuff, like God knows all the awful stuff like Obama did in Chicago or Trump did in New York, doesn't like any of these places, but they can go to Florida and ain't nobody know about that. But they have power over those people. They didn't grow up with them. They don't know them from a child. They don't know if they're genuine or full of shit, but they have power over you. And that's the problem, like if you grow up with somebody or you've known somebody for years, you can read them way easier than your senator that maybe you shook his hand once and then he's going to go back to your state capital and you're never going to talk, so it's like that kind of fundamental, like anti-human disconnect. I forget what researcher it was, but they deduced that humanity is not built to live in communities over like 350 people or something like that. Because then you start dehumanizing each other because you're not interacting as people anymore.
Very true. You subjugate them to like an idea. So like we all know the Florida man, right? Florida man stories. You can't get away from it.
Poor Florida people.
Man, I wonder what kind of energy's over there because that's some real wicked shit.
After you're done making your point, I have to tell my favorite Florida man story.
But what people, and this is piggybacking back off of what Jonesy said earlier, and I was talking about this yesterday. People, what is it? They always expect to be perfect, but forget that there's no such thing as perfect. You're always a student. People stop being students. And it's kind of like psychologically programmed for you to either you like the student ways because of how you've been indoctrinated, or you just don't fuck with learning whatsoever because of the indoctrination process. And therefore, you tend to like, what's the word? Depreciate, if you will, depreciating the ideas and the thought processes of how to actually be a student and always wanting to learn. Because when you're a student, you can be arrogant as fuck or, the most humble person. Student's going to like being student and learning is going to make you humble. It always is going to humble you in a sense. Even if you're the most arrogant asshole on this planet, you're going to learn something. You always are going to learn something, and people just stop wanting to learn.
Right. Absolutely. And like the lack of evolution and shit, like that's people get really mad when I bring this up, but like I hate the great man theory of like worshiping great men and everything like that, because our politics, our religion, like everything is all based off of a bunch of old dudes that have been dead for like 100 years.
Right.
Like these people weren't around the internet. These people, like their world was totally different than our world, yet we still are obsessed with living off of like what they said. Like we stopped, not only did we stop being students, but like the people that still are students to a degree are latched onto a lot of old dead ideas, and we're not like evolving at all. One of my favorite Michael Malice quotes is, "We have a society that's based off of pre-telegram thinking in a post-cell phone world." It's like it's crazy. Like you see how everybody just started working from home because of COVID. Yeah. And it took a global quote unquote pandemic for us to understand that we don't need to be in cubicles to do office work. We've had computers for 20 fucking years. Like we just figured this out that, like we can do this from home. And it's wild to me of like, we're so far behind what's possible. And it's because we've stopped being students. We stopped analyzing the world, analyzing what's going on and adapting to it. And we've just latched on to these old ideas, these old ways, and not personalized it or made it our own or grown from it whatsoever.
For sure. I want you to get to your Florida man story, but I want to add something to that because I've seen like something play out that is actually played out in this conversation. And, I know that I bring up Adam an awful lot, but he and I are good friends. We've been friends for a very long time, and he influenced the living shit out of me. So one thing that I noticed when Adam started his campaign, and I was involved with the campaign before it was a campaign. I am actually the oldest member of his campaign, but other than Adam, but one of the things that people like to say is there's nothing new under the sun. That's bullshit. That is absolute and complete bullshit, because I watched 3 years ago, this guy named Adam Kokesh had this fantastic idea called localization. It was about bringing the powers that be locally. And sure, there were people here and there throughout history that may have thought of similar things, but he put it out there and laid it down in front of people. And I have watched it come into the mainstream. Now, Sonny Johnson talks about very similar ideas all the time. Now there are people in the Libertarian Party who are just talking about that over and over and over again. That was just 3 years ago, and that was a new idea. And I have watched it blossom. I have watched it spread. And the thing that I want to bring out of that is that what many of these associations, whether you call it the state or whether you call it culture that's locked itself down or whatever it is, what they're doing is, there's a quote by Voltaire where he says that basically humanity sucks because they will take stones and, the people that have walked the tread path will throw stones at those people who are forging a new path. And that is absolutely true. And what anarchists have been doing for at least 200 years is we're forging that new path. We're looking at new ideas, new solutions. It's why people like Maj Toure are extremely important to our movement, because he's introducing solutions in such a way that the masses can grab a hold of that. And so what I want to add to what you're saying is that those not only do we not need to just parrot the ideas of other people, we need to be creative thinkers. We need to be thinking of the solutions that no one has thought about, because that's the only way in this society that changes on a daily basis. We have to be ready to innovate. And if we're not, we're going to go the way of every extinct species that has come before us.
Yeah. Every extinct species has tried to ride the same wheel and the same wave, and is very evident when it comes to the United Rome of America. Like, we are legit.
I love that. I'm stealing that. That's great.
But we're just like, it's so agitating. Like, y'all sit down in history class, and granted, I love history. We sit down in history class to listen to all this bullshit that's being spewed, and like, there's plenty of plot holes in them, but we don't question them. Like, we legit just don't question them. And then the people who do question them, the people who are getting stones thrown at them, we're really getting attacked now. Like, the stones are big as shit. Like, you get canceled, and you can't be on social media anymore. For example, Magnus, you got Felicia, hitting your line. You feel me? You got the institution that'll lock your ass up. Like, it's not pretty. It's really not pretty. And we all, as a people, see this vicious cycle. And then when you start to stray off the path, oh yeah, that's a crazy one right there. And then we look at you and like, all right, now when this all shit pops off and I'm not the crazy one, I'm going to feel sad and bad for you, but I'm going to live my life.
Right. You calling me crazy for collecting rainwater while you're digging in the mud looking for something to drink. Like your stuff's drying up, and we can see it. Like, nobody can look at America and the Western world in general right now and be like, yeah, this is going great. So, and we're trying something different. And they're like, no, stick to the old ideas. Like, they're tried and true. And it's like, for the time, maybe, but like, we're past that. And we need to start finding new ways. And you even see it in the anarchist community. And it's so annoying in the, obviously me and Marcus bitch about this all the fucking time, of like, no, my 100-year-old dead anarchist was right. Your 100-year-old dead anarchist was wrong. And it's like, bro, like, are you fucking kidding me, dude? Like, it's surreal to me of adapt and overcome is natural. Like that is evolution. We believe in evolution. We need to evolve. So like, throwing stones at the people paving paths, I don't get it. It's so surreal to me. Of like, with the whole unity message, like we tried party politics, we tried being insular, we tried uniting with the Republicans and doing the Ron Paul thing. We did all that. That fucking well is dried up. We tried it. It didn't go anywhere. So I'm going to try something new. And that's the unity stuff. And people are freaking out and screaming about it. It's like, okay, well, if you're not down with it, then you don't have to participate. Why are you treating it as a threat to me? Well, a threat to yourself. How is me stepping off of your path a danger to you? It's not. But like going back to the ego thing of like Jonesy and everyone else brought up, like someone else is more afraid of your success than they are their own fucking shit. And it's like if my unity thing succeeds, then that just benefits everybody. And then if it fails, well, that's my problem. That's not your problem. But you're so invested in what I'm doing for reasons that I can't even articulate. I don't get it. It's weird to me that people are like this.
So you say that, and then I think to how, some of the struggles that I've heard that you've had, with generating, income in this world. You know what I mean? Do you feel like, your political ideology and everything that you've been involved in has kind of put like a glass ceiling on you being able to support yourself?
Oh yeah, 100%. My politics have like ruined me. Like I am like, I used to be an artist before this. I used to travel around and go to like festivals and Renaissance festivals and stuff like that and sell art.
You have a very artsy beard. I figured that.
But I'm burned from all those communities. I'll never get a booth again because I'm a public figure now. I struggle with regular work and like even dating. Like we can touch on that really quick. Every single Tinder match is a ticking clock for them to Google who I am and then unmatch with me. Like it's affected my whole life. I have a black mark of shame. I've been excommunicated from polite society for the crazy concept of just loving people. Like I haven't hurt nobody. I haven't threatened to hurt nobody, but my ideas have put like this glass ceiling on my ability to probably ever succeed at this point. I always have to be worried of like my employer or something like that, just looking up who I am and then be like, oh, fuck this guy, because that happens to people. People get canceled in a real way. There's, I'm not like the biggest fan in the world of the Proud Boys, but we can't forget that some of their members got kicked off of Chase Bank. Like they got banned from using banks for their politics. And it's like, whoa. Right. So I'm at the point now where I'm like just trying to do anything I can to keep a roof over my head and the support from the community, because I've full committed to this. There's no turning back now. My face is everywhere. Like even if I hung this up right now and said I'm not participating in politics anymore, there's probably a good 1 or 2 years where it's still going to affect me and I'm still going to struggle for it. Like I got recognized at the grocery store by a cashier, and I was like, that wasn't great. They gave me like shitty, like stink eye the whole time. And imagine if I applied to that grocery store and, like the manager was like a big, like Biden supporter or something and like found that out about me. It's ridiculous how we're at this point. So
I will mention at this point that your link tree is down below, and I suggest that people make a donation. Magnus may not be out here pimping for himself, but I will. I will pimp for you. Let me be your pimp.
I hate it. Literally, people fucking.
What has just happened? What has just happened?
People threatened me in my DMs. They were literally like, I don't care if you don't want to do this, fucking do it. I'm gonna like show up and like beat the shit out of you. Because like I was so against. Like I could have asked for help. Like I've needed help this whole period ever since COVID hit. I've been fucked, but I've never once did it until I did that video of like, hey, I'm probably gonna have to give this up because I'm gonna have to work like 7 hours a day, like 3 jobs to keep a roof over my head. And then people were like threatening me, like, don't you dare stop.
You stop, I'm gonna whoop your ass and put a 50 on your chest.
Exactly that shit. And I was like, okay, I'm flattered, I'm honored, but I'm also like, I'm like embarrassed by it. I always joke around that my pronouns are none, address me as nothing, because I'm super uncomfortable in this. I never wanted any of this to happen. I don't like being a public figure. I was approached to like lead in my organization several times before I gave that speech, and I always turned it down. I always deflated to someone else, and then I had to be the dumbass that gave a speech, and that speech had to get 1 million views, and now here I am. So like, I hate it, but this is it's been thrust upon me, and kind of like it's a you know, like whether it be divine providence or whether it just be luck, like I'm in this position now. I have to do something with it. I can't back out.
You gotta get your grift on, man. It's okay. Get your grift on, man. Listen, there's a good grift and there's a bad grift. You know what I mean? Look, get your grift on, man. Nobody's gonna say anything bad about you, and if they do, fuck them. You still gotta pay the bills, right?
Yeah,
right.
I went from like a decent apartment, self-employed and everything, to like now I'm in a 500 square foot apartment with like working like DoorDash, and it's like, ooh,
Oh, man.
it fucking sucks.
Oh man, that sucks, dude. You like one of those apartments where like it's a community bathroom and a hall and all that shit?
Well, I got my own bathroom, but literally like maybe 5 feet that way, 2 feet that way, 10 feet back. That's my entire apartment.
Wow.
Like
Sucks,
I have a box that I live in.
No good deed goes unpunished, right?
Yeah, all I did was give a goddamn speech. Like, fuck. Like,
Well, but at the same time, I gotta say, and you know, I'm the first one, just to be clear, I am the first one to give the Liberty Movement shit. We need to protect our own. We need to put our money where our mouth is, and we need to support the people who are doing the work. If you're not out there doing some shit, support the people that are doing some shit. I get that not everybody can be you, Magnus. Not everybody can. I can't be you because I have limitations. Right. I don't have the ability. And sure, I could just, you know, fuck it and go do this, but I'm not going to be able to do that. I do what I can. And so the people that can't do anything, because there are those people that are out there. I have a good friend who works for a naval base. And if they knew for a second he was friends with me, he'd lose his job. And so he can't do this shit, cannot. And so what he can do in this particular circumstance is support the people that can, and support the people that are putting the boots to the ground and doing it. And that doesn't just mean in the kind of activism that you're involved in. It can be the kind of activism that Jonesy's into, the kind of activism that I'm into. Where the bottom line is, if you have a little bit of money, invest in the charities that are in your local community. Invest in the things that you care about. Put your money where your mouth is. And I want to see people put their money where their mouth is, and support what you're doing. Now, I will ask you, and I'm going to say this on air. My wife is upstairs listening to this, who I have to point out, I was lucky she came along way before I had any kind of recognition, because I'm with you. I couldn't find shit.
You didn't get the conversation I had with my last girlfriend where she told me it was me or the boys, and sometimes I miss her.
Nope. Yeah, right.
Wow.
Well, I'm lucky enough that my wife is more anarchist than I am. But
lady anarchists do be like that. If a legit lady anarchist is a scary woman.
She's an agorist. I think I pull her towards towards this stuff. But at the end of the day, what I'm about to say is I need you to send me. I don't have extra cash, but I do have a little bit of extra Bitcoin. I'd like a Bitcoin address, and I will float you a little bit of Bitcoin at the end of this if you will send me an address to send it to.
I appreciate that, and yeah, we can do that. But just to piggyback off kind of what you're saying about not everybody can do this, like especially the more and more you're getting involved with this, like Adam went to prison, like like I'm not the first like quote unquote leader of the Boogaloo, even though I reject that term, but like a figurehead. Like there was 4 people before me, and 2 of them are dead, and one of them is in federal prison. So like I get that. That's horrifying to some people. Some people aren't willing to go like chips down like that. But you can help in a million ways. Like I obviously this is a little more military oriented, but I love the quote of like revolutions aren't won by riflemen. Revolutions are won by ladies hiding bullets in apple pies. About like nurses and stuff like not everybody is a warrior, but you can be a warrior. and many different ways. And we all have our kind of way to help out. And it doesn't even have to be money at all. Like just sharing people's stuff or like talking to people about ideas or picking, like even something as simple as picking up garbage out of a park. Like you got 20 minutes on your day off, go to your local park that's full of like fucking used needles and shit like that and just pick it up, throw it all in a trash bag, go home. Boom, you've bettered the world. Like you can be a warrior in 100 different ways. You don't have to be risking fucking life and freedom like we are. Like you can, but you can still.
Everybody has a role.
Yeah, you can still push it. You can still push it one way or another in this direction. You have the power to do that.
So let's get back to that Florida man, and then we'll wrap this thing up.
Oh, okay. So
I'm back for the story.
Yeah, my favorite Florida. So there was a guy in Florida that was arrested, a homeless man. He was arrested because he was catching a Gulf crab and painting Hillary Clinton for prison on the crabs and then releasing them back into the water. So people were catching crabs out of the bay that had Hillary for prison painted on them, and they're like, "Who the fuck is doing this?"
This dude protect my man.
This dude with his bare hands.
That is some top shelf hate right there.
Right. This man with his bare hands was going down to the beach and catching crabs and painting shit on them and releasing them to the wild. Like
that's a bad motherfucker right there.
For sure.
Like taking a lot because he wasn't like holding like a live crab that's like this big while it's trying to snap you and shit and sitting there with a paintbrush and painting on it and letting it back in the water.
He's got like a fucking crab hanging off of his ear, one off his nose. He's like, hold on there. Hold on, Lord.
Like you can Google that story too. That's a real fucking story. It came out. It was like a 2016 or something in Florida. This crazy motherfucker.
That's great.
I think that guy does need to be locked up, though, man.
Oh man. So I'm going to start wrapping up. First of all, Magnus, I want you to anything you want plugged. We do have your links down below in the description. There's a link tree and also your link to the new Twitter. But is there anything in particular you'd like to mention?
Yeah, so besides all the places you can catch me on tomorrow, like I said, I'm doing that Unity Council about black gun ownership. I'm actually going to try to get this lady I just found out today about. She's like a firearms instructor that's super badass. I'm going to try to get on there and talk about that. So that's tomorrow at, I think, like 8 p.m. But other than that, I think either in a week or 2 weeks, we're going to go public with the anti-war march we have planned on September 11th in Washington, D.C., which is going to be a unity march. And we have like communist organizations and libertarian organizations and like conservatives and stuff like that all on board with this. And we're going to try to bring back that Occupy Wall Street energy where we all go to DC and we'd be like, hey, we're like 100 different religions and political affiliations and people, but we're all going to shut up for a couple hours and end these damn wars. And I want people to see that. And I want people to be inspired by that. And I want people to show up. I want like these people that got 100,000, 1 million followers on Twitter or something like that to show up and put a call to action. You know, put your money where your mouth is. Like if like Dave Smith and Jimmy Dore could stand on a street corner together with a sign that just says like free popcorn or something like that, and 100 people would show up just because it's Dave Smith and Jimmy Dore.
Right.
So I want these people. I want everybody like the Tucker Carlsons, the Cassandra Fairbanks, like all the Hotep people. If you have a platform, like. I want people to get behind this. And I want people to start putting out calls to action about this, using their fan base, using the platform they got to start pushing for this stuff. So stay tuned for that. That'll be like 2 weeks. And the event itself is going to be at September 11th, right in Washington, D.C. We're going to go right up in their face with it. It's going to be cool.
You should contact Adam. You have his phone number, right?
I don't think I have his phone number, and he doesn't follow me on my new Twitter either. So you need to bug him about that too.
I will. I'll get after this. I'll give you Adam's phone number. It's good.
Oh yeah,
cool. Because that's right up his alley. Anti-war. So Jonesy, do you have anything you'd like to close with?
No, just I love the message of love, peace, and freedom, and I really admire you guys risking your life for your principles. I can't say that I'm willing to do the same. When all of this is going on, I'll be sitting on the couch eating a big bowl of ice cream, watching you, cheering you on.
I appreciate it.
No, I'm kidding around, but for real, man. We're all not able to go out in the way that you guys are. You know what I mean? And to be honest with you, man, me being who I am, I don't really there's a lot of things that I'm learning from listening to all of the different people that you name. There's a lot of these things that are going on. I really had no idea what was going on, and I just appreciate you guys having the courage to do what you're doing.
Appreciate it, bro.
Nico, you got something?
How do I join the Boogaloo movement? No.
Own a gun, have a Hawaiian shirt, and hate tyranny. That's all you need. You're a Boogaloo then. Same thing with the Hotep. You become a Hotep by being a Hotep. Same thing with the Boogaloo boy.
Dude, I thought it was all about breakdancing, and here I am. That's what I thought. When Chad told me about the Boogaloo movement, I'm like, oh shit, man, we got somebody from breaking on.
Where's Turbo at?
Like, where in the fuck is Turbo?
Dude, it's so fun. Dude, it's so fun when people actually know that reference instead of desperately having to fucking Google what it is. It's so good.
But no, I most definitely appreciate you and the angles that you attack this fucking Hydra, this multi-headed beast. I appreciate you and how you use your rhetoric and your physical arms to most definitely make people realign and rethink things. Like that's a smooth talker and a gunner, two ways to make people like rethink their things about their life. So I do appreciate that and how you do move around in these streets, as we call them. Also, what is sic semper tyrannis? Break that down in English, please.
Suffer not tyrants.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, so it just means do not put up with bullshit, pretty much, in Latin.
Okay, I bet.
No ogre shit.
No ogre shit. Absolutely. No ogre shit.
Yeah, like you said, a smile and a gun. I always say be friendly and heavily armed. That's how I conduct myself at protests. I'll be there with a bulletproof vest and a rifle on and have the biggest fucking smile on my face you ever seen. So like that's how you do it.
Well, you're protected. So that's
true.
That's
true. Relaxed as hell.
Man, because I'm in Chicago and I know shit's about to pop and I still have yet to get a gun. But what's great about my job is this is not being too shitty, so I'm getting paid actually. So gun will be on my way, but I have to find a good instructor and I have to get all my papers right because Chicago police don't like young Negroes with certified papers and guns. So yeah. But no, that's what's up. I appreciate you. I'm so sorry that I came in late and I did my running around. I am pissed that I missed the majority of the content, but I'm grateful for the gems that you've placed upon me. But yeah, thank you very much. This was dope. I wish to have you on again and have a much more longer and influential conversation.
Hell yeah, definitely. I would love to come on again. And real quick in the comments, someone said a Hawaiian kufi. Let's make it happen. Let's make that shit happen.
For sure. For sure. Absolutely. So again, Magnus, I really appreciate you coming on. As I knew this was going to be a good conversation, I also have to thank our guest host. Thank you, Jonesy, for sticking in with us. You got to understand. This dude up here he's an anarch. He may not call himself this or that or the other thing. I don't care.
Everyone's an anarchist. They just don't know it yet.
Right. Well, this dude is the black version of me. This is my brother right here.
That's
you
right.
gotta understand.
Definitely.
The thing is, Jones, from the get-go, I've watched it or I've listened to his podcast. I've watched several of the things that he's done, and I thought that this dude was interesting right out of the off jump. But I appreciate you coming for the second time to Aquarian Anarchy. This time as a guest host. I definitely needed help. Nico and I struggled the last time. It was just the two of us, and we managed to have a pretty good content, but I liked having the third person to help us interview. I want to say thank you as well for coming on.
No problem.
And
man.
lending your voice, your powerful voice to this conversation, because these kinds of conversations are what brings people together and will help free the world. So I want to thank everybody. Please hit the Patreon, go to the store, and just hit that like button, hit the share button, visit these guys on Twitter, visit Nico and I on Twitter, visit Chad on Twitter, and also just seek out ways to be helpful in your own community, whether it's through activities that we've mentioned or your own activities. Put your philosophy into work and we can make the world a better place. Remember to move forward with love and freedom. Stay free, my friends.
You're still alive.